how the White House is, right? This like super iconic place, all about, big decisions, history, all that. But have you ever heard those kind of spooky stories about it? Like the whispers, the stuff people say happen there. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to look at these stories of like potential hauntings at the White House and see if we can figure out where they came from and, well, just get a peek into a different side of things there. To do that, we've got some awesome sources. First up, there's this interview Jenna and Barbara Bush did with People magazine, where they actually talk about their own experiences. And then we've got a ton of historical info from the White House Historical Association. It's going to be a wild ride, so buckle up. Let's kick things off with those Bush twins. In that People interview, they talked about some seriously weird stuff that happened when they lived in the White House while their dad was president. And get this, it all started with Jenna. She was in college at the time and woke up one night to opera music. But here's the thing, it was coming from the fireplace. No joke, she said she even felt chills. I mean, can you imagine waking up to opera blasting out of your fireplace? So Jenna, she freaks out and runs to Barbara's room to wake her up, totally convinced it was a ghost. Barbara, she's not buying it at first, like, come on, Jenna. So they go back to sleep in Barbara's room, but here's where it gets even crazier. 2 nights later, Barbara's in Jenna's room and they both hear it. This time it's like old-timey jazz music. Same fireplace, same creepy vibes. And they're 22 at this point, like too old to be waking up their parents in the middle of the night over spooky music. So what do they think it is? Well, their first thought was their cat, Willard. Maybe he was like jamming out on the piano or something. Hilarious, right? But the next morning, Jenna sees that the piano top is closed. No way Willard was playing anything. So yeah, the mystery continues. Oh, and get this. Jenna later told a White House staffer named Buddy about all this, and he was like, oh, you wouldn't believe what I've heard over the years. So clearly, something weird is going on. Anyway, Barbara's take on it all is pretty straightforward. She's just like, there are ghosts, plain and simple. So yeah, the Bush twins' experiences are pretty wild, right? But it's not just them. The White House has been around since 1800, so there's a ton of history, and with that comes a whole lot of ghost stories. For example, there's Mary Lincoln. After her son, Willie, died, she was super into seances. This was during the Civil War, and spiritualism was huge back then, especially for people dealing with grief and, all the uncertainty. Then there's this guy, Jerry Smith, who worked at the White House for 35 years, starting way back in the 1860s. He claimed to have seen the ghosts of Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, William McKinley, and even some first ladies. Can you imagine seeing all that history, living and not so living? And here's a weird one. In 1911, during Taft's presidency, the staff was totally freaked out by this spectral teenager they called the Thing. People would feel like a pressure on their shoulder as if someone was watching them. Taft even told his aide to warn everyone that anyone caught gossiping about the Thing would be fired. That's how much it was spooking people out. But back to Lincoln. He's the most famous White House ghost. People say he hangs out in the Lincoln bedroom in the Yellow Oval Room. Grace Coolidge even claimed to have seen him, and so did Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. Pretty credible witnesses, right? And Willie Lincoln, Mary and Abe's son, who died in the White House, people say they've seen him too, especially staff back in the 1870s. Kind of sad to think about a young boy's ghost still lingering there, Oh, and Andrew Jackson. Yeah, he's apparently still making a ruckus. People have been hearing his laugh in the Queen's bedroom, which is now called the Rose Room, since the 1860s. Mary Lincoln even says she heard him stomping around and swearing. And there are other presidential ghosts, too. Thomas Jefferson playing his violin in the Yellow Oval Room, Dolly Madison protecting the Rose Garden, John Tyler reenacting his proposal to Julia Gardner in the Blue Room, and even William Henry Harrison, the first president to die in office, haunting the attic. It seems like every corner of the White House has its own ghost story. But it's not just presidents. Abigail Adams, she used to hang laundry in the East Room, and people say they still smell wet laundry and lavender there. Then there's a British soldier from the War of 1812 who supposedly roams the grounds with a torch. And even David Burns, the guy who originally owned the land the White House is on, has been spotted in the Yellow Oval Room. Talk about history coming back to haunt you. And last but not least, there's Anna Surratt, whose mom was involved in Lincoln's assassination. People say she bangs on the White House doors, begging to see President Johnson to get a pardon for her mom. It's a pretty heartbreaking image. So when you look at all these stories, there are some common threads, right? A lot of auditory stuff like music, laughter, footsteps. Makes you wonder if those sounds stick with us more. Or maybe the White House just amplifies them, making everything seem eerie. And let's be real, the White House is a place with some serious emotional baggage. So much history, so many highs and lows, so much personal drama. Could all that energy be contributing to these stories? Maybe it leaves some kind of like psychic imprint. Obviously, whether you believe in ghosts or not is a personal thing. What one person sees as a ghost, another might explain away. But the fact that these stories keep popping up year after year is interesting, right? At the end of the day, the White House is more than just a building. It's a symbol of our history, a home to so many important people. So it makes sense that it would have its share of legends and stories, some of them venturing into the unknown. So here's something to ponder as we wrap up our ghost hunting adventure. With all those huge moments and influential figures connected to the White House, is it really that strange that stories of ghosts linger? And what do those stories, true or not, tell us about our relationship with history and the places we inhabit? Food for thought, right? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the White House ghost stories, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Have spooky news of your own to share? Email us at spookyYTnews@gmail.com. And remember, stay spooky.